All right, hey, welcome everyone to the Centerville City Council being held here on April 16th. And we thank you for your attendance. We're excited for the events of the night and thankful for all the officers that are here. Let's make sure we can conduct business by doing a roll call vote, starting with my far left.
Meekum present.
Heyman present.
Hurst present.
Plummer, present.
4 of the 5 are present. Councilman Summerhays is asked to be excused, so we can proceed. We will start with the legislative prayer thought by Councilmember Gina Hurst.
I'd like to offer a prayer. Our dear, kind, and gracious Father in heaven, we are so grateful for the opportunity that we have to serve on this council and to serve in our community. We are especially grateful tonight for our first responders and for the sacrifices that they make to keep us safe and protected. We're grateful for their families who also sacrifice for the members of our community. Please bless and watch over them. Please keep our police officers safe and other first responders who work in this community. Please bless us this night as we engage in discussion about items that are important in our community, that we may have the guidance and inspiration that we'll be able to continue to have this beautiful legacy that we have, that we call home. And we say these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. If you'll all stand with me and repeat the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The next item before our presentation we're excited about is the open session. This is an opportunity for any member, anyone that's attending here or online to come up and express any thoughts they may have. Just would ask you to keep your comments to 2 or 3 minutes if you're so inclined, and identify yourself and where you're from for the record. So that is now open. Is there anybody online with us tonight? All right, seeing nobody online and nobody coming forth to the open session, we'll move on from that. The next thing is the presentation that I talked about, and this is an introduction of new police officers, which myself and the council are all thrilled about, and I had a chance to visit out in the hall, and so I'm excited to hear more. So, Chief?
Thank you, Mayor and Council, and I'm just ecstatic about this. We're really excited about our 2 new officers, and we'll be fully staffed for another 3 months. Depending on what happens after that, we don't know. So first off, I'd like to invite Stetson Ryan up here to stand here with me next to the podium. Let me just tell you a little bit about Stetson. So Stetson is currently in the police academy. He is scheduled to graduate next Friday, right? Thursday. So a little over a week from now. He's knocking it out of the park in the academy. The reports that I'm getting back are fantastic. He writes a weekly address on his progress and what's going on, and I've read all of the comments from his cohorts within the academy, the fellow cadets and so forth, and they all speak very highly of him, and apparently he knows how to shoot quite well, so he's pretty good with firearms, and he's doing excellent in the academy, so we're excited to have him. So this is Stetson Ryan, and he grew up and continues to live in West Bountiful City. Stetson loves kayaking, fishing, hiking, and camping. He really just loves anything outdoors and involving the mountains. Stetson has always known from a young age that he wanted to serve the communities around him and be a part of law enforcement. So we're just really excited to have Stetson with us. He obviously is new to law enforcement. This will be his first law enforcement job, but he is just excited to be involved and during the interview process. Now, if you remember, we've been working on filling this position for quite some time now, and we went through a couple of hiring pools, and so we ended up with this guy here, and we're really happy about that. So I'm going to invite up Connor Roscoe and just have him stand over here. You stay here. Don't you go away. Just have you stand right over here. All right, so this is Connor Roscoe. And Connor has 2 years of experience coming to us from Bountiful Police Department. One of the things that has drawn Connor over to our department is he's been involved with our K-9 program, specifically the Hound program, and he's just fallen in love with that whole program. And as a process of interacting with our folks, our officers and so forth, he's become, I guess, liking what he sees here, apparently. So we were just really excited that he expressed interest and put in an application for us. And of course, we went through the normal hiring process with both these individuals that we always go through, and their thorough background and so on, psychological, I'll see if they're crazy enough to be cops. And they are. So a little bit about Connor. Officer Roscoe was born and raised in Utah. He comes from a large family with 9 siblings. He has worked in law enforcement for 2 years in Bountiful, where he was a firearms instructor. Connor enjoys baseball, training dogs, and enjoys nerdy things like Star Wars and history. So it's all very cool. So what we're going to do, these two have already been sworn in as police officers. So they took the oath of office. Before we could have them do anything at all, that's the very first thing on the agenda. So Ryan has already, it's a little complicated. We were able to put him out on the road for just a little bit, kind of as a backup officer to our regular officer, because he did have some certification. He didn't have the full certification. So he's had some experience working the road, helping out with arrests, taking reports and stuff like that. He'll finish up his field training once he's done with the academy. But he was sworn in order to do all that. And of course, with Connor, he was sworn in day one and put right to work. So he's also in field training, but he's doing great, and it'll be an abbreviated field training for him. So what I do with new officers is we do what's called the Oath of Honor. It's kind of above and beyond the regular swearing in, the Oath of Office. So what I'm going to have you two go do is I want you to stand right over here and just kind of face me. Now what I'll have you do is repeat this Oath of Honor after I'll read it first. But what I want you to do is raise your right arm to the square and just repeat your name. Okay, well, we'll go to the Oath of Honor. You'll repeat after me. On my honor. I will never betray my integrity. My character. Or the public trust. I will always have the courage to hold myself. And others accountable. For our actions. I will always maintain the highest ethical standards. And uphold the values of my community. And the agency I serve. Congratulations. And we will now have a pinning on ceremony, so we'll invite those that came on their behalf. So we have the fiancé. And, yeah, so Ryan's fiancé is here. We'll have her do the pinning on the badge. We'll see how much blood is drawn. And then Connor's mother is here as well. And then once you've done that, what I'd like to have both of you do is just come over here and just sign this oath of office. And then we will give you all a big round of applause.
You just want a signature, correct?
Yep. And you can put today's date, the 16th.
Because you took over for me, so I could take pictures.
And this will be yours to keep.
Awesome. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you, guys. Mayor, council, thank you.
Thank you, Chief. What I'm thrilled about is that we've had some experience with them. I'm sure that Connor, being a battlefield officer, has been involved with helping us a bit, with our police chief, with our police forces working so closely together, right?
For sure.
And Stetson I ran into after a fire here in our apartments. He reminded me tonight, he was there on a Sunday morning while you and I are there. So they've had some experience with our city, and
Yeah, and if they haven't already called you and, to set up an appointment, they will be. They're doing a treasure hunt, and on, some of the portions of that treasure hunt has to do with contacting each of the council members and the mayor, and, just coming by, talking to you, see what's important to you, for them to get to know you and you to get to know them, and what your priorities are and so forth. But they have a whole bunch of other things on this treasure hunt that they have to complete, so.
thank you. Thanks, Connor and Stetson. Wonderful. Thanks, officers, for supporting and being here.
They support them.
And Louisa, you too. Thanks. All right, that's always awesome. All right, let's go to business items. Okay, the first item is a public hearing matter. This is regarding the zone text amendment regarding fences and walls. And so it looks like Whitney's going to come up and do our staff presentation on this.
Thank you, Mayor. This is another zone text amendment application for fences and walls. Last time we talked about fences and walls in front yards. This is now rear and side yards. So different applicant, different application. The applicant is Richard Jensen, and the part of the code he would like to amend is, it says height of fences and walls. No fence, wall, or other similar structure exceeding 6 feet in height shall be erected in any rear or side yard except for accessory buildings permitted by this title except as provided below. When a difference in grade exists on either side of a fence or wall, the height of the fence or wall shall be measured from the average elevation of the finished grade of adjoining property at the fence line, or if excavated and filled, the native elevation. So the applicant would like to build a retaining wall and then put a 6-foot fence on top of that. So last October, he came in for a building permit for the retaining wall, and staff unfortunately noticed that the maximum height of the code was not being complied with, so we denied the building permit. And then he resubmitted several different plans. I think we got up to 6 different resubmittals, trying to get his project to work within the parameters of the code, but we just couldn't make it work. So ultimately, in last December, he applied for a code change, and in January, the Planning Commission considered his request, but they ultimately decided that there wasn't enough information, and there was too many concerns that weren't addressed. So they tabled it. And then last month, he amended his application to address some of those concerns and provide some more suggestions on what the code could be amended to say. And the Planning Commission reviewed those, but they are recommending denial because they're still concerned that several things haven't been addressed adequately. They feel an amendment would be more welcome, or would be better coming from staff or the Planning Commission. So that's basically it, is the Planning Commission is recommending denial. And then as I mentioned last time, the Planning Commission is putting this ordinance on their goals for 2024. So we will relook at it. And one of the things that they want to talk about is separating retaining walls from fences entirely and making them 2 different standards. So that's something that we're going to talk about in the future. And then there's sample motions in the staff report for you based off of what we discussed tonight. You can either table it if you want more information, deny it like the Planning Commission is suggesting, or if you feel different than the Planning Commission, you can approve it, but you will have to come up with findings for the reasons why you approve it. So that's our report. Do you have any questions?
Whitney, did the staff have a recommendation? I didn't see one in our packet.
The staff recommendation is in the Planning Commission reports. We're basically recommending to deny it.
Further questions for Whitney before we move the applicant?
Yeah, Whitney, I noticed a
I believe it was the applicant who included the zoning from Bountiful and Farmington. And they had more of a, hey, one side or the other, not an average of the two elevations. What are your thoughts on that?
I think we need to look at a couple different things. One of them being the hillside. I think the hillside is different than everything else. Right now, you can put an 8-foot retaining wall on the hillside. And then again, the separation of retaining walls. If it's just a fence on a difference of grade, maybe you could put it on the top. But walls or fences that need to be structurally engineered, that might be different. So,
What is the height of, it looks like it's railroad ties. Is that staying in place in a fence on top?
no, so that retaining wall is failing, and so he would like to replace it with a 4-foot retaining wall and then put a 6-foot fence on. So the overall
Oh,
height
I
of the
see,
project
yeah.
would be 10 feet, but with the current code, it would average out to 8 feet. So he's 2 feet over.
Okay, thank you.
No other questions at this time?
Okay, and the applicant is here if you would like to have him come up and present or ask him any
Yes,
questions.
in a public hearing matter, the applicant, if they want to address us, are always welcome. So applicant, just come up and introduce yourself to everyone.
Thank you so much. My name is Richard Jensen. I'm a resident of Centerville. We live just above 4th East on Center Street. And as Whitney said, I proposed a text amendment that would change the zoning code from allowable 6 to 8 feet in backyards. But it was denied by the Planning Commission and probably will be denied by the City Council, which is fine. My purpose in coming was just to explain why I want the text amendment, and if the City Council could instruct the staff to complete their analysis, hopefully in the next month or month and a half, then hopefully they could incorporate some changes that would benefit my project. The reason I want a taller fence is because I want a concrete fence so that it doesn't get knocked over or destroyed by my neighbor's trees. And a concrete fence on a sloped lot, which mine is, has to step. So the highest point of any place on my property is 6 feet. But then it slopes down to, whatever dimension it is. So in reality, the fence would be more like 4-foot average fence, which isn't a great fence for privacy. So that's kind of my whole purpose in coming to, or proposing the text amendment and then coming to you, is just to try to incorporate the ability of Centerville residents in their backyards to have better privacy. If it was an average 6-foot fence, that would be great, but that's not possible the way it's written right now. In addition, like Whitney said, the difference in grade between mine and my neighbor's is 4 feet, and so the fence starts 2 feet down from his side, 2 feet up from my side, and so it ends up being less than 6 feet. So I appreciate your time and coming and talk to you, and appreciate your consideration, and look forward to seeing what the staff comes up with when they get to that. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard.
Are there any questions?
I have a question either between you or Whitney, or one of you can answer. So maybe it's more Whitney or my question. Is our code such that it goes by the height of the fence, no matter where the fence is at? The applicant brings up a question, if a property is sloping, is it still just the height of the fence, even though you may have a slope that?
No, so on a regular fence, on a regular lot that's flat, you would start at the ground and measure up, so you would get that 6 feet. When there's a difference of grade, you take the average of the difference in grade, so in this case it would be 2, and that's where your fence height calculation starts. So if he does a 6-foot fence on top of that, he really could only get 4 feet, because there's 2 feet
Right,
difference in
okay.
grade, or average difference in grade.
There's the
The
diagram.
picture. Okay, so in this.
Sorry, you guys can turn your monitors on. I think I forgot to turn them on.
You should do that. I did find it. Brian reminded me that we had that in our packet. So in the case, I know we're looking at a text amendment to the zoning code, so this isn't specific to the Jensen property, but in this particular case, are we talking about the difference in elevation is like an average of 2 feet? Is that what
Yes,
this
so
picture?
I created this picture based off of Mr. Jensen's lot.
Okay,
So in his case, there's a difference in grade between him and his neighbor of 4 feet. So we would take the average of that, which is 2, and that's where we start the height calculation. So he could only put a 4-foot fence up to get to the 6 feet.
I'm not, I mean, I kind of, in this particular situation, I drove past your property today just to make sure I had a full understanding of, you know, from the pictures and everything, and as I was driving by, it was like, it's a baby fence in the backyard if you comply with the 6 feet, right? Like, and so it might look sort of okay on your side of the yard, but then your neighbors are sort of looking down into your yard. Is that the concern? I mean, I'm just trying to get to the, so I think, like this is one of those things where I'm going, I don't know what the right answer is, because in this particular case, I'm going, wow, I don't blame you for asking for, you know, an 8-foot instead of a 6-foot, or I frankly wasn't opposed to Bountiful or Farmington's ordinances where they take it from one side or the other.
Exactly.
So I guess I'm open to a discussion on that, because it does seem weird to put, you'd have to put in a 4-foot fence, right, to comply? Am I understanding that right, Whitney?
Well,
Well, 4 foot on his side.
yeah, so on his side, it would be a 4-foot fence.
Mm-hmm.
On Mr. Jensen's side, it would be a 8-foot fence.
Well, it would still
with
be a
the retaining
4-foot
wall.
fence, but it would be like 8
Yeah,
feet of
yeah.
height,
'Cause
right?
we have to take the retaining wall and the fence together.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm also not opposed to what you mentioned about maybe considering looking at retaining walls separately from
From fences.
fences. Yeah, interestingly enough, this is not the first time I've heard a complaint with our code of retaining wall versus fence, but I guess I'm a little curious. I mean, you put a bigger fence, and windstorms, do we have any? I'm just trying to look at like all the sites. What are the concerns?
Well, that's part of the amendment that staff should look at is, should they be structurally engineered if they're a higher height? Should we require a building permit? I mean, I think there's a lot of different things that staff needs to consider and bring it back to the planning commission and city council.
I would appreciate maybe that. It seemed like, I'm not gonna be able to find it, but you had something about that we maybe needed a little more time to look at positives and negatives for
Yeah,
this.
it was one of the findings.
Yes,
Sample motions, is just that there's not adequate information at this time to really weigh the positives and negatives of every aspect.
I don't want this to become onerous for residents,
Yeah.
but I totally get what Mr. Jensen's concerned about. I guess I wouldn't mind potentially tabling this and giving city staff that opportunity to come up with that. I am concerned about, do we need structural, if it is higher?
Right.
Again, no, don't want to be onerous to residents if we don't have to be. In this case, it looks like it's a wooden fence, so a non-structural fence.
I think
Or-
it's gonna be a cement fence.
Yeah, it's,
Okay, so this picture is not necessarily accurate.
No, I totally
of
just
what-
got that off of Google
Okay.
to make the.
That's totally fine. I just wanted to make sure. So it would be, a concrete fence is structural, right? There would be some structural requirements.
it would be structurally engineered.
Okay.
So I agree. I mean, I look at this one and I can totally understand and makes perfect sense to me. If we were just getting to pick and choose, I'd say, yes, let's go for it. But where we're going to make a change that could affect other people, I would like, as a council, if everybody's in sync with me, I'd like to address staff and the planning commission into looking into making this more equitable for everybody, but bringing us the pros and cons so that we realize, sometimes I'm for something like this, and then when I work with the planners, they're like, yes, but then this is the consequence down the road.
Right.
And so I don't want to do that. I don't want to change this and have the consequences bad for somebody else. But I would be very interested in having staff and the planning commission look at this and bring us back some ideas of making this so that maybe this could happen.
And would the expectation be that this exception as I view it, would only be where you have two properties that have different grades, meaning, like, I wouldn't be able to game this system by putting in a 3-foot retention wall and then sticking a taller fence on top of it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think we would have to make that distinction, for sure.
Which is another reason to table it and give staff the opportunity to really
But do we want
kinda-
to table it, or do we want to just direct them to do it and deny it? Because tabling it, usually we come back in 2 to 4 weeks, and I don't think they're gonna have it through planning by that.
what do you think?
So
How much, I
our-
know you don't know for sure, but what is your guesstimate on time
So our
to
next
review?
planning commission meeting is next week, so we wouldn't be able to get it on there. And then we're canceling the next one because we'll be in St. George for a train, or Cedar City for a training. So the earliest we could put it on would be May 22nd. I would be more in favor of putting it on sometime in June, just so we have the time to talk to the city engineer and maybe Public Works, and look into a couple other things, so.
Whitney, I will tell you from my perspective, what would be really helpful is to see real-life examples.
Yeah.
Because while I understand the privacy concerns that you have, and I certainly understand why you're asking to put a 6-foot fence, I am also concerned that we're contemplating putting a 10-foot barrier, which is a really high barrier, and picturing that in my head is really tough, and I want to make sure that that's actually going to fit with regard to community. So it would be helpful for me if I could see some photographs
Okay.
or evidence of other places where I could sort of visually see what that's going to be.
Okay, I can
Well,
see.
with Shaylin, that's what I'm thinking. So you live on the downward side, so you're going to have the 10-foot fence, and that's what you want, so it's great.
Yeah,
But would a neighbor, if this was reversed and it was the upper neighbor that was wanting to do this, the lower neighbor may not want a 10-foot fence in their backyard. So that's, that's where how do you decide? Yeah, so they want it, and 10 feet in their yard, and it doesn't really affect their neighbor because their fence is only 6 feet anyway. So if staff could figure out how to write all that down and make it work out, that would be good. Because like I said, I can see where I might be upset if I lived in your yard and it was the neighbors that wanted to do it.
Well, another option would be to make it an average height. In my case, if the overall fence was 6 feet, some parts would be 8, some would be less. So the average would be 6. That was one of the suggestions too. So they could take that into account
Yeah,
too.
we have excellent staff. They'll figure it out and bring it back to us. I have no.
And I'm fine if we want to do the denial. The reason I like the table option, even though it sounds like it's going to take a while, is I think that just puts a little bit of like, hey, this is tabled, we need to keep it moving, let's not let it slide through the summer. I'm sure you would really, my guess is you may be willing to wait if you know that there may be a potential chance.
I'm okay either way. I didn't know what staff would prefer we did.
Yeah,
But if
maybe that's a good question for you, is what would staff prefer?
like I said, I think we can get it to the planning commission probably in June and then bring it to you guys in July.
So do you
I
think?
think what staff is saying, we would prefer that you deny it because it gets complicated once, basically staff's going to be redrafting this with a lot more research.
Yeah.
And it's not really the applicant's application anymore. So.
So it needs to come back as a different
I
application.
mean, you can do either way, but it's also problematic. I mean, sometimes we do help the applicant, and in the staff report, we'll say, okay, we recommend approval subject to these 20 conditions or changing it this way, but this one requires so much comprehensive research that we weren't comfortable saying, oh, fix it X, Y, and Z. And I do think it will take a few months to prepare that kind of comprehensive analysis, so.
But staff, you've heard from most council members that they do want you to look at it, so that means with your busy schedule, you need to fit this one in as well, too.
Yeah.
But before we get ahead of ourselves, this is a public hearing matter, so I'm not going to entertain any motion yet. We do have to have a public hearing first, and we will come back after a public hearing for any more thoughts or questions. So this is a public hearing matter regarding Zone Text Amendment CZC 12.55.110 in relation to fences and walls. So that that matter is now open to a public hearing for any member of the public that wants to comment. Just state your name and where you're from.
Mayor, I need to step out for 2 minutes. I'll be right back.
Okay?
Nobody online.
Nobody online? Seeing no member of the public commenting, we will close the public hearing, and we will continue to our discussion as far as if there's any further questions for the staff or applicant.
Mr. Mayor, I hereby make a motion for the city council to deny the request from Richard Jensen for a zoning code text amendment regarding CZC 12.55.110 fences and walls with the following reasons for action. Number one, the planning, oh wait, that's the planning commission. For reasons 1 through 3 in the staff report. Can I say that way, Lisa? Does that,
Yeah, replacing planning commission for
replacing
city
planning
council.
commission with city council?
But do you mind if I potentially amend your motion and not do item 3 just because it talks about denying that we should not approve a zoning code text amendment? I guess
Well, you
I
could
would
just,
rather say that staff is going to look at the entire code there and either A, completely rewrite it or amend it at a future point.
sometimes in these situations, we recommend stating the motion as is. After the motion is passed, you can then direct staff by motion to place this on our priority list.
Okay, that would be great.
That way, it's not part of their approval, because if we don't combine it, we're not violating the
Yeah.
approval.
So are you withdrawing your amendment?
I am withdrawing my amendment. I'll make a motion in a minute.
Okay, so we have a motion.
Yeah, we have a motion. I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. Is there further discussion on that motion? Okay, let's vote.
Aye.
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 And I guess we have it doesn't matter whether how she goes, an abstention. So, that passes. Was there further discussion on it?
I would just like to make, I don't know if we need to make a motion or just direct staff to obviously investigate CZC 12.55.110 so that we can adequately consider the potential positives and negatives and hopefully come up with a solution that will.
So we do prefer a motion, just to make sure that the majority of the council wants to direct staff to expend time.
Okay, I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
There's a motion and a second. Let's fill Councilwoman Meekum in. We denied the motion, but this is now a motion to,
To direct staff to investigate CZC, that number that I mentioned. Aye.
we have a second here, so vote.
Aye.
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 So that passes 4-0. Thank you. Okay, you good on that one? Thank you, applicant, for coming in. And please don't take this woman stalking your house. She was doing her job. Okay.
It's always helpful. I do it often to just get a feel for the entire situation. And while I was there, I actually looked at several other, because I think anyone that's living on a hill like that, there's that potential issue, right? So.
Thank you. Thanks for coming in. All right, let's go to item number 2. This is discussion of planning commission compensation. And Nate's been staying up late at night because it seems like he's always the one that we put off, isn't it, Nate? But we love him, man. But this was supposed to be on a work session. We ran out of time 2 weeks ago, right?
That's right.
So, and it looks like he's got Mike to help him.
Yeah, I brought some backup here.
Okay.
No, thank you, Mayor. As Mayor mentioned, this was a topic that got brought up at a budget retreat, the topic of the Planning Commission compensation. Right now, our fee schedule, it says that we should pay our Planning Commission members $35 per meeting attended, and the chair of the Planning Commission should get $50 per meeting attended. Staff's opinion on this is pretty neutral. Again, this was an item that council asked to bring forward. However, staff would support a increase of up to $50 per meeting and $75 per meeting for the chair. Attached to in your packet is a survey that we obtained from the Utah City Counties Managers Association. of a bunch of different cities. It's a little outdated, but I don't think too much has changed. You can see that a number of cities don't pay anything.
I was shocked at how many of the big cities don't pay any.
Yeah.
Me
I
too.
was, I was like, I kept rereading it thinking, am I reading this right?
You may have more people to pull from, obviously, in those areas, so.
That's true. You said it's a little outdated.
2017, I think.
Okay.
So there could have been some changes, but we didn't put a ton of time. It's a little difficult to find.
Yeah.
If we looked at a few of our neighboring cities, I couldn't find it on their website, and I just wanted to verify if it was the same or not, and I couldn't find it. But our neighboring cities are on this list. Again, staff is pretty neutral here. I think there are some mixed thoughts that I think was brought up in the budget retreat, that we want this to be an active public service. But at the same time, we do have professionals that make up this commission. We have attorneys, we have developers, contractors, that I do feel deserve to be compensated somewhat for their time. I also feel like a good incentivizing them with pay is a good way to also attract new members when the time comes. Is changing $35 to say $50 going to be a huge incentive for someone? I don't know. But does it help in the justification of the time that they're going to spend away from their family or personal lives to come and do city business? I do think it's fair to recognize that pay. So anyway, that's my personal opinion on it. I don't know if Mike has any other opinions he wants to share, but I will add, if we did increase it up to $50 and $75 for the chair, that would have a budgetary impact of up to $2,760.
Well, I got two thoughts. Did you want to say anything, Mike, before I comment?
Just to support what Nate said, I agree. I think, like I said during the budget retreat with COVID and with the changes with the economy and things, yeah, it's $15, but it's $15 that might be motivating to somebody who may be on the fence to even give volunteer service in the form of planning commission in the future. It sends a message we care about voluntary service. It's kind of the whole sticks and carrots discussion, right? And this is a carrot that I think is a benefit to, again, taking their time away when they could be doing other things with their family or even professionally to come and help the city in that capacity. So I feel like it is something that I would definitely support given the current situation.
Okay, thanks. My two thoughts are, number one, wow, Washington County, it's hard to get people from golfing and hiking there, isn't it?
You mean because they get $150 a month?
150 on two cities down there. Second thing is over my years of asking, because usually I bring these names to you for planning commission appointments. Over my years of asking, I don't think I've ever had one ask about compensation, but I've always brought it up with them. There's a small compensation, and they've never asked the number really. So I'm not opposed to going up based on what we're seeing, and I think it's reasonable. But I just wanted to point out that, and some of you have served on planning commission, okay, that we have wonderful people in our city. We don't want to take advantage of them, but people have been willing to volunteer and do it potentially without any sort of compensation. So just a shout out to all our past and present planning commissioners. But if we do up it, I mean, it's a situation that, as I talk to new ones, I'll stress even harder that you need to make sure that you're committed to doing this and there on the second and fourth Wednesdays. So that's my comments. Anything else?
If I might say something, I think that from my experience, Planning Commission seems to have had people that are willing to serve and participate on the commission. Whereas we also have other committees and commissions that don't get compensated, and they actually are more difficult to recruit for because of various reasons. So what would it be if we looked at every volunteer getting a compensation? And my thought is lawyers and developers and those professionals that may serve on the planning commission, I just don't see a $50 or $75 compensation per meeting as a incentive. I believe that serving on the commission is often a reward in and of itself. But those are my thoughts.
I totally agree with everything you're saying. I will just say this, having had young children at the time when I was on planning commission, I didn't know there was compensation. That's not why I signed up. I don't think anyone is signing up for planning commission for $35. I mean,
Come on,
I
Jane.
Less taxes.
Are with that, didn't you?
Less taxes.
Yeah, so I totally don't think that's why I signed up, but I'll tell you what was nice at the time was, like, if I really did have, like, if it was one of those crazy days with my kids, I knew I was like, well, I got money for, like, some fast food for them. And so, I guess I know staff said $50, but I had to hire babysitters at times. I just think it's a nice way to just say, nobody thinks we're paying you for what your professional background is worth, but here's a little something, thanks for your volunteering, and, oh, that might cover part of the babysitter fee or the dinner that needs to be taken care of.
Looking at these, though, I wouldn't go over $50. I mean, we've got a lot of big cities that are paying nothing. I mean, most of them, Farmington is only 25.
And the only reason I'm saying maybe 60 is just because this is from 2017. There's been a lot of inflation.
I'm kind of like Brian. I want volunteers to be on it.
I think
It's for
they're
the
still
same reason
volunteering.
They are still volunteering, but then I hadn't thought about the fact that, are we sliding other committees, because we definitely don't want to or can't.
I'm not saying we shouldn't look at those.
But that's not what's done. I mean, there's no city that's,
Yeah, I don't know of any cities, they
can't
all.
do that.
No, not all, that's a bad statement because we see no pay here. But you see compensation planning commission members, but I don't know of any of our cities that compensate
Yeah.
their
For the other
boards and
committees.
No,
committees.
you don't pay,
Yeah,
So I feel like I'm a cheapskate, but I looked at this list and I thought, we are in the top half of all cities that pay our planning commission. I'm not
Yeah, good
inclined
point.
to increase that at all. We are a small city, and we're in the top half, more than the top half, that people are being paid. I am not, I mean, having served on the planning commission, I appreciate our planning commissioners, but I am not inclined to increase this. I'm not in favor.
I think you've all spoken, right? So this isn't a work session. In work session, we could have just discussed it. I guess it is. We could let it be, or we can do a motion, I guess, but
I'll make a
So if we're not
motion.
going to change it, do we just leave it, or do we need a motion, Lisa?
Up to you. It was just a discussion item unless you.
yeah, it's down for discuss. We
Suppose
don't-
if we're
we
not
don't have
going
a
to change
resolution
it, we don't
drafted
want, we don't.
or any- Yeah, we don't have a resolution or anything drafted.
My concern is that we do have right now, like, several of our volunteer committees are not making their quorums. They're not able to hold their meetings. And so I think it is potentially problematic to not consider that we may have to compensate a little.
What about taking some of the money that we would otherwise give to the planning commission? I just don't think adding in an extra $15 is gonna make a hill of beans.
It would to
But-
me, and here's why, because I can't buy dinner for $35 anymore. I
Yeah.
could when I was on planning commission. I no longer can do that for a family of 5, not even come close. $50 would get me dinner at Chick-fil-A.
Yeah,
That's it, I'm not even talking about fancy.
I hear what you're saying. I'm just, from my perspective, I don't think that somebody is gonna be willing to serve at 50 and not at 35. And so if we're looking at doing something to incentivize other committees, maybe we take that money and buy people dinner to get them here or something, right, to incentivize them. think I would be more inclined to do that. And again, this is no slight to the planning commission whatsoever. I appreciate them so much, but that's where I am on this.
I think I agree.
And I would be inclined to agree with Councilmember Heyman as well.
Okay, and I'm in disagreement, and that's okay.
And just know some of those dinner things adds another hour of staff time.
Oh, good point.
And
Okay.
probably
We're
more
trying to
money.
get ready to present, and, you know, I don't know
Yeah,
if
that's a good point.
Whitney can go get dinner, bring it here,
That's a
and
good
then
point.
present.
So you gotta have
But now we've got
somebody
to have
else.
Jennifer here.
Okay, what about just snacks?
I could go.
Chocolate and
Yeah, we,
popcorn.
I could become the new Bryce for planning.
There you go, okay.
I do think that planning commission starts late enough. That didn't ever seem to be an issue for me. That wasn't the problem, was whether or not I was getting dinner. I really do think it's just more of a, in my opinion, was just more of a, hey, that's nice, that helped me make sure I got out the door on time.
All right, thank you. Further discussion? Thanks, Nate. Thanks, Mike. All right, should we move on? All right, we got minutes, March 26th, March 28th, special city council minutes. That would have been our budget session. April 2nd, city council work session, April 2nd, closed session, and April 2nd, city council minutes. Do we not have April 9th, or are those coming later from
They're coming.
last week? So, remembering back to those meetings and seeing those minutes in front of you, was there any changes that you want to make to those minutes?
I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes.
Do you have
Sorry, did
changes,
you want
or-
I
changes?
have one, like,
Okay.
so
Okay, we have a
ridiculously
change.
stupid change, but I'm gonna say it anyway, because I circled it, and since I circled it, now I have to say something. On page, so on the minutes for April 2nd, on
Which
page-
meeting?
the city council meeting. April 2nd, page 5, line 2,
Page 5?
page 5,
Sorry, I'm writing notes.
right there. Do you see in line 2 where we say Wholesome Co? That's the only time we say Wholesome Co, and everywhere else we just say Wholesome. And it bothered me that we said something different there, so I would just make it Wholesome.
Well, so you're making two changes, because it says Wholesome
Oh,
Co.
yeah, I'm sorry.
Wholesome
So
Co.
they
Inc.
say
and then
it,
Wholesome Co.
correct, so they say Wholesome Co Inc., right? And then he said Wholesome Co, but everywhere else that we refer to Wholesome Co, we just say Wholesome. So,
So you would like this,
the second
this
co.
one to just be wholesome?
Correct.
Yeah, maybe go, they actually have two companies. One is Wholesome Goods,
Oh.
and one is, so if you go all the way to the top, I can't remember their two business names, but I think it's these.
The reason that I said that, Lisa, is
Wholesome
just,
Ag LLC and Wholesome Goods LLC, and so we should say wholesome and then
yeah,
just
like,
define
Put
it.
it- can
But
you
there's
just
two
put-
companies and
Correct.
they represent both.
that's a good clarification. I just was looking as I was scanning through everything else, and everything else.
So there's
in
no
there-
such thing as Wholesome Co. Or Wholesome Co. Inc., they're both LLCs, I think.
Got it. That was it.
Okay.
That was my minor ticky-tack, and then it.
Thank you.
So your motion is
It wasn't.
change it all to Wholesome with the,
Just,
is that
can
what
you
it
put
is?
that, can you just put that in parentheses on line
So,
48?
for
of
this one,
page
wholesome-
2?
This one, Wholesome Co. Inc., should that also just be wholesome?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, or you could say Wholesome Goods, which defines both, but either way, define it in section, when we first mention
Yeah.
the application, and then use that consistent
Yes.
language.
Okay.
whether-
So
Yeah,
line,
wholesome.
it's line 48 on page 2, which
Yeah.
is where you should, in parentheses, put wholesome.
Wholesome.
Yeah.
Collectively,
Wholesome Goods
comma.
LLC, Wholesome Ag LLC, and Wholesome Goods LLC apply, yeah, collectively.
Collectively, comma, wholesome. And then
Yeah.
just change all references to wholesome through the rest.
Okay,
I like that, thank you.
so that's fine. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, any other changes? So with that change, do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
Yes, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes for March 25th, March 28th, April 2nd, which includes the city council work session and closed session.
Second.
Motion is second, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Great. Finance report, we have the honor this month of, since we are at the end of a quarter, of Nate not only highlighting it for us, but going over those highlights and anything else on the financial report. So Nate?
Thank you, Mayor. So we are now officially 3/4 of the way through the year, as of the end of March. I don't know where the whole year went, but here we are. So if we want to go, perfect, right there.
I'm only 3 months into my year, but you were 9 months here.
Fiscal year.
Yeah.
So looking here, I just wanted to point out a couple things. This is our cash position by each fund. Looking at the RDA, we did receive our tax increment in March, and that was about 1.8 million. So that's why you see the big jump in cash there. Between now and somewhere in May, I'll be working on getting all the distributions to all of our contracts in the RDA. But those have not been distributed yet, so that's why you see that big jump there. The other things I wanted to note here was, and we've talked about these before, the rec fund and the drainage fund. They're a little bit lower on cash than we'd like to see, especially with, rec's busy season coming up and drainage is starting some projects here soon. We will be watching this close. So yeah, we'll keep an eye on it. If you want to go down to the next page after that. So here we're looking at our general fund. We'll start off looking at the revenues. The first thing I'd like to point out is our sales tax is just right on schedule. You can see that we are just slightly less than what we had at this time last year. I put this in a weekly update, but it was surprising. I mean, generally we see, so in February, we see the sales that were reflected in the sales from December. We get our sales tax 2 months later. So we were seeing our Christmas and holiday shopping sales tax revenue in February. It was a lot lower than what we had received in 2023, which was concerning. And if you look at our historical years, we generally see this spike, and then in January, the sales that happen in January that we receive in March, you just see this huge drop off. But this year, the drop off was not nearly as big as previous years, which was good, because after I saw our lower holiday shopping sales were so low, I was really worried that we'd have this huge drop off, which would essentially guarantee that we wouldn't hit our budgeted sales tax revenue. But where we just had a less steep drop off, it gives us some hope. As I said, we're at 76% of the year, so if we have good sales tax numbers for the remainder of the fiscal year, then I think we may come in right at budget, but it is an unknown. So looking at general fund revenues, the total, we're at about 10.4 million, which is essentially about the same spot we were last year, slightly above, but not a big increase. Moving on to the expenses, I highlighted some of the departments or divisions that are above.
Before you go to the expenses, Nate, do you expect us to get to what we budgeted on the revenues?
I do.
Because you got the property taxes basically collected, right?
Yeah, they're all but collected.
So you think the others will come in, because we're at 82%. If we were at 75%, I'd have some concern, because we do have property taxes in, but you'll think we'll get to that figure, the budget, with another 18%?
Yeah, I do. The biggest variable is the sales tax. So last year in June, we had a very low sales tax number that went against our historical numbers. So if that happens again, then we may not hit it. So if last year was an anomaly, then I think we'll be okay, and I think we will hit our revenue. However, if we have a June sales tax revenue like we did last year, then we may fall a little bit short.
And that one is 76%.
The sales tax?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, of what we budgeted.
Yeah, we're just a hair above
Yeah.
what we budgeted. So yeah, I think we have a pretty good chance. I'm optimistic.
Okay.
Okay. So I'm looking at our total expenditures. We're about 9 million, which is 70% of our budgeted expenditures, which gives us a year-to-date net income of about 1.4 million. Moving on to the,
Do we expect in the next 3 months any, well, we can never know when a road's gonna, knock on wood, pipes break or something, but do you expect any big adjustments?
yeah, no, this is just general fund, so we, this is mainly operations.
That's true, yeah.
So I think we will come in under budget. I am not aware of anything that, right now, that would push us over. And that's historically how we've been, is a little bit, we don't spend everything in the general fund. So I would expect that to continue. Our RDA fund, as I mentioned earlier, we got our sales tax increment, or excuse me, our property tax increment. You can see that last year we got about 1.6 million. So this year we actually received about $185,000 more than last year. And as I mentioned, I'll be working on the contractual distributions to the developers. I'll do that this month.
Hey, Nate, speaking of the RDA, the theater, I'm thinking of Megaplex. It seems like it's been about a year since they came in last. Have they made any requests to come in?
No, I have not received their numbers yet. I was actually going to email him today, and then I thought, well, I better put together his potential earnings before I do email him. So I'll be working on that this week or next week.
Okay.
And request the ticket sales information.
Okay.
You said Megaplex, is that who you meant? Not the
I
theater?
did mean Megaplex. Remember, they were under on their ticket sales for the last couple of years, and so
Yeah,
I
just as a
am
reminder.
specifically asking if they're gonna be making a request again this year.
I'm really hoping they hit it this year.
I hope so too, but that's why, when you started talking RDA, it jogged my memory that it'd been about a year.
Yeah. And
I would expect something. They called me, the owner of the building, in January, and then I passed it on to Lisa that they're going, and I was in a movie there last night, they're going to less seats, because, in bigger seats, because that's the concept, big theater seats now.
Well, yeah, we all, coming out of COVID, we all want comfy seats and our blankets and our jammies.
I was told today that that's what they're doing. They've got part of their theaters closed down right now, and they're putting they'll all be luxury seats rather than just having a few.
And they're gonna eliminate a couple of theaters and do something else, is what he talked with me about. So I'm surprised we haven't seen anything from them, because that was in January.
And just to go back and preface this for our new council members, we have an agreement in the Legacy Crossing area with Legacy Crossing. And part of their contract says that Megaplex has to hit, it's 500,000 ticket sales a year in order for the developer to qualify for his tax increment distribution. Since COVID, since 2020, they haven't hit that amount. Obviously during 2020, 2021, the COVID years, the theater was basically shut down. And then 2023 didn't hit it, with the argument that a movie takes 3 years from production to theater. So since no movies were being produced during 2020, we're delayed.
It seems like they got pretty close last year, though. Like, I think we kind of let it go, but I think they were what?
They were pretty close.
480,000 or,
I don't know.
don't
It
quote
was-
me on that.
it was close.
It seemed like it was
And
so
it does seem
close.
to me like more people are going to the movies again.
I think
It's a
so,
great
too.
deal for them. Right now, they charge more for those seats, because we sat in them last night. And then you fall asleep because it's so cozy that you have to buy another ticket and come back.
Right. I know. That's how I like to watch a movie. I like to take a nap and Matt watches the movie.
You and me both, we'd be good movie partners.
Anyway, sorry to digress.
No, it's good business strategy. All right, so looking at if you want to go to the next page, our rec fund, our recreation fund, right now they have a net income of just shy of 5,000. We do have baseball expenses that are hitting starting in April, but at the same time, we're having a lot of our summer rec signups start in April. So again, we'll be monitoring the rec fund hoping to maintain positive cash balance by fiscal year end. Looking at our RAP tax fund, you can see that our revenues are slightly increased over last year. And what makes this interesting is RAP tax is all based on local Centerville sales, which means that sales in Centerville are doing slightly better than last year. So that's good to see. Going down to our Parks Fund, just wanted to note that on the expense side, we're only seeing the first half of the community park lighting project and then the pickleball engineering and design costs. That's what makes up those park expenditures and park projects. I know we just did receive the lighting equipment, so we'll be cutting another large check this month, as well as the install for that. So we'll see some expenses in the park fund pick up in this fourth quarter. Looking at our next page on the capital projects fund, you can see our expenses are only 44% so far in the year, and I expect those will pick up in this next quarter. We'll probably spend most of what we have allocated in that fund. Moving on to our transportation fund, you can see that we're already over budget on expenses, which is causing our net loss of $752,000. And yeah, I think we've talked about that a little bit in previous meetings as well, so I won't spend much time on it.
We got all of our revenues in the, like, for the transportation fund. Are those all in for the year? Or
No.
are they still coming in?
Yeah, they're still coming in. Some come in every month, some every other month, and some are quarterly. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't remember which one is which. Looking at our Utopia fund, we're still waiting to receive our rebate or distribution from Utopia. I don't know if Councilman Meekum has an update on that or not.
Yes, it's gonna cover for the next year, it will cover our payment again.
Good. Have we heard anything on when we can expect our rebate for this fiscal year?
Oh, no, I didn't know we needed, I will ask that at the next
It
meeting.
generally comes in last year it was June, which was later than normal. Normally comes in April, but we'll keep an eye on it.
I'll ask at the next
Awesome.
meeting, but we are for the next year, they've upped it again, the 3.2 or whatever, ours goes up, so we'll get I think it's 146,000 next year.
Good, it's good news.
She'll follow through on it, I know, Rob.
Good.
Don't mess with my money.
Awesome. Moving on to the water fund, I just want to point out our operating revenues are exceeding our expenditures. So that's good that operationally we're ahead. Where we get our net loss is from our capital projects that are significant. Moving on to our sanitation fund, again, we have a good net income of $110,000 year to date. In the drainage fund, again, just like water, we're doing great operationally, but where that difference comes in to give us the net loss is our capital projects. They've gone more than what we budgeted.
Do you think that we'll be balanced by the end of the fiscal year on those, both that and the water enterprise fund?
Drainage, I think we will have a net loss.
Okay.
I know we've got a couple of projects coming up, a couple with the Briarwood and 1250 North. So I expect we have a net loss, and that one we're watching close again for cash flow purposes. We're really trying to make sure that we have a positive cash at the end of the year. And then water, it depends on when the construction for Briarwood, if that hits this year or next fiscal year. That could sway things.
We've talked about increases in both of those enterprise funds. Is that coming for a vote soon? When is that? What's the plan on that?
Yeah.
I know I'm probably asking you a question you may not have all the answers to.
Yeah, I don't know for sure when it'll come. I would guess maybe June.
Okay.
We're still working out some items on the staff side before we're prepared to bring it before council. But I would say probably June.
Okay.
Any other questions?
When you're talking about we're being under, we're under $158,666 in our drainage fund and a similar amount up in our other fund. Is that money shifted from another fund to cover that difference, or are we financing that? How is that?
Right now, we are not. So essentially, when you have a net loss, you just end up using your reserves, your fund balance. So right now, that's the case. Drainage, we had entertained a proposal to transfer general fund money over to the drainage fund to help cover some projects, but I don't think we'll need to do that.
Okay.
Anything else for Nate? That's the end of your presentation, right?
Thank you, Nate. I love your presentations and the markups, and makes it very easy for me to understand.
Thank you.
Yes, that's very helpful. Thank you so much for, I'm sure that takes quite a bit of time to put that in, and it's very helpful.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
So it's looked at, so if you take it out, you're gonna hear it.
We're gonna be blind.
Don't be trying to get away with that.
Yeah.
Already tried once. Obviously, it didn't work.
Thanks,
All
Nate.
right, thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, let's go to our report. Is this the first time that you get a
This
chance
is
to
the
report?
first time I get to
Yeah, drum
report.
roll. All right, Councilwoman Hayman's got our report.
Oh, right. So, thank you, Mayor. So I was asked to sit on the mosquito abatement district, which when you asked me, I thought, mosquitoes? Huh. Okay. Sure. Okay, all pause with me for a moment while I nerd out about mosquitoes. I've learned so much. Davis County treats more acres for mosquitoes than any other county in this state. And that's because we have so much shoreline in our county, if you think about it. And so there are a number of things that they do to treat mosquitoes. They have fogger machines that go around at night, plus they apply aerial applications, plus they have bikers that will go around and spray catch basins, plus they raise fish that they will put into ponds to eat mosquito larvae, right? I mean, things that you just don't even think about that they do. One of the things that they just got done doing early this spring, they spray for tree hole mosquitoes. So there are lots of different types of mosquitoes. There are some that will eat all day. There are some that only eat at certain times. So they applied all of the treatments for tree hole mosquitoes. There are about 1,000 trees that if you go out and you see the trees where they have like the marks on them, and you see them like in Farmington, you see them a lot, like, and they're all on one side of the road, right? But they mark the trees and they'll go out every single year and they'll just spray for those mosquitoes. And most of them are marked between Farmington and Hill Air Force Base, but if you do see a marked tree, know that that's why. They go out, they spray for them. Why? Because tree hole mosquitoes are one of the major mosquitoes that carry heartworm for dogs. And I'm always told, get the heartworm for your dog because you don't want your dog to get heartworm. So the carriers are cats and dogs and raccoons and foxes and coyotes. And when they have these heartworms, the mosquitoes will they'll be infected, right? They'll bite an infected animal, and then the heartworms will get into the mosquito, and then when they bite somebody else, like it's like a needle that goes into your skin and it leaves a hole, and the little worms go in. And they'll go up to the heart, and that's where they grow. And they can grow up to 6 to 12 inches long, and they actually will just clog the arteries of your heart, and your animal will die. That is why heartworm is really bad. And when dogs have these, it's really hard to treat it, and it's really hard on the dog because you have to give it arsenic. And you can't give it so much arsenic, because if you give it too much arsenic, not only will it kill the dog, right? But if you kill all of the heartworms at once, because there's so many, it like floods the system and the dog dies from shock. So you have to give it just enough arsenic to kill enough of the heartworms, or the heartworms, so that you're kind of like killing it over time. So it's a really, really tough thing. The good news is that we don't have a lot of heartworm right now, and you can prevent it with HeartGuard. So the number of cases that we have dropped drastically. The state agricultural department, I think last year was the first year that they did it, they started no longer reporting it as a reportable disease. So it used to be veterinarians would find these cases, they would report it. Our district would see that that was happening, and if they identify where somebody has a dog that has been infected, they will go out and they will spray that area to make sure that they're protecting other dogs, but that is no longer reported to the state. And so that information is no longer getting back to the mosquito abatement district. So I would just encourage you that if you do hear of anybody, and it's not like a big prevalent thing, but if you hear of a neighbor that's dog has been infected, like please make sure that you're telling them to call the mosquito abatement district so that they can go out and they can spray. Because that's like the best way that they can identify it. And one of our board members was kind enough to make up some stuff that I need to get to our local veterinarians here in Centerville to kind of hand it out, right? So that they're aware that this has been a change too. Okay, and so one of the other fun things that I learned about was that, so there are bike teams that they hire during the summer that will go out on bikes. And they travel 25 miles a day, and they spray catch basins. There are 26,000 basins countywide. And so they try to cover the entire county every 30 days. Last year they only got through the county twice, but they try to get through it 3 times every summer. And so you literally have people out there on bikes that are spraying out the catch basins. So, there's a lot of stuff that the mosquito abatement district is doing that I didn't ever think about. Everybody just wants to complain about the mosquitoes, but they're really doing a lot to try to keep the mosquito population down. Jennifer, Bryce should have sent you a video. So one of the cool parts about being on a board is they like to demonstrate things for you from time to time. It used to be that you could spray for mosquitoes, with more plain type applications, but as our county has grown out and grown out and grown out, and we have a lot of build out, it's become a lot harder for them to do that. So they've applied with the FAA, and we now have drones. And this is one of the drones that they demonstrated for us. They're not very big, comparatively speaking. And you see how it has that little catch, it's like a container thing? And they'll fill that with little pellets, and then they fly it and it just spreads it. And the drones are really great because it allows them to get into tighter spaces. So they can be a little bit more strategic about where it is that they're planting the mosquito chemical, right, to try to help keep it down. And the other thing that I did here is sometimes people are concerned about the foggers that come around. Are they bad for the other, what about the bees and things like that? And I am told that because most of the good bugs go to sleep when the sun goes down, that they're protected. And so if you ever see anybody out with the fogger machines, that they're really designed, they go out at night to try to catch the mosquitoes when they're flying, because those are the only ones that they're trying to get. So anyway.
When I was growing up as kids, we played in the foggers. Fall would be, you would see it go down the road and there'd be 15 kids behind it playing in the fog. And there's nothing wrong with me, or maybe that is what's wrong with me. But
so
there you go.
I am told that now on the machines, we have sophisticated enough equipment that when we're going by, if they see somebody, it will cut off. And then we go by and then it starts up again. And so I am now nerding out just a little bit over mosquitoes because I'm realizing that there's a lot of stuff that goes on behind the scenes that we don't really think about to help protect us. So when people are complaining that there are too many mosquitoes, I get it, but trust me, they're doing a lot to try to keep the mosquito population down. Okay, and then my other report is the Whitaker. I don't have a ton to report on Whitaker because my first month, the executive director was not feeling well and we didn't have the meeting. And the second time I was out of the country, and so I only got to attend one sort of partial one. But I will tell you that there are a couple of fun things that are coming up for the Whitaker. They have an entire year of activities planned. We just got started with the Whitaker Community Gardens and getting those plots together. And this month is also the DCM Indigenous Presence. So they've coordinated with other cities throughout Davis County to recognize the Indigenous presence that we've had here in our community. A couple of other, I'm not going to highlight all of them, but a couple of other fun things that are coming up. June 8th, there's the Elizabeth's Victorian Tea. So you have to submit a reservation for that, but that is coming up. And then we also have some Pioneer Children's Day camps, which Bryce has talked to us about to try to get people involved. So that is sort of where I will stop on that, but,
When is the Victorian tea? June 8th?
so that is June 8th.
Thank you.
So any questions? You guys are all as excited about mosquitoes as I am now?
That's good.
Actually, that was
It's-
really interesting.
Yeah, oh, and the other thing, can I say one more? Because we're like sort of short on time, or I have a little bit of time. So the Mosquito Abatement District goes out and talks to school kids every single year. So they went to 40 different schools, and they introduced the life cycle of bugs, which science teachers like, but they also can talk to kids about things that kids can do, like they help them understand the life cycle of the mosquito and things that they can do at home to avoid it, standing water and whatnot. But as part of this program, they will give every kid, they order 4,000 Paint Lady caterpillars. And they give these out to the kids, and the kids are able to watch the caterpillars go through the process, and then they release the butterflies. And so they do that to schools all over Davis County, but they've just given out all of their caterpillars. So like in the next little bit, we should have a bunch of kids that are releasing all of their butterflies, which should be really fun.
Awesome.
That's cool.
Okay, that's it, Mayor.
That's awesome. Thank you for that great report, okay? All right. We are to the mayor report. But before I go to that, was there anything pressing from the rest of you on any of your council assignments? Okay, mayor report. What's happened since last meeting? One thing that I briefly mentioned to you in the past as part of my responsibilities, and I haven't done this whole time I've been mayor, just the third year, I guess. There's a Davis Loan Fund in our county that will loan money to startups or people that are relatively new in business, infancy type of business. And we meet on a monthly basis to approve potential loans for new businesses in Davis County, or like I said, just in their infancy. So as you go around talking with people, remind them of that, because there's been a lot of months that we haven't really had applicants for the loan fund. So the board's made up of mayors and a county commissioner and a couple at-large members from the community. So we're kind of a board like, approve the loan application type of thing. But so it's sometimes a lot of situations that, maybe a bank's not going to take them. And so that's one reason they come to the loan fund. A lot of our applicants come from the tech college, but always keep that in mind that that's available, okay? Next thing is, just want to tell you that one of our assistant fire chiefs, who's a resident of Centerville, retired, and it was his last day yesterday. So if any of you know Dave Powers, I would call him up and see if he wants to go golfing, because I hear he's a big-time golfer. So
He is, I know him really well.
yeah, I've always brought it. I haven't played with him. I've already brought it up with him. So Dave retired, and he will be missed. And then I'm headed to the league meetings in the morning. That's where Brand is right now, because they had city manager meetings on Monday and Tuesday. So I will do my best to try and attend classes that are relevant to Centerville. You know how it is. Sometimes you get an hour and a half hour into it, you realize this is a rural city or a big city. So you try and go to what's going to apply to you, and try and come back with some good report for you on that. A reminder, especially to you new council members, I hope you're planning on April 27th from 8 to 1 at Station 85, the chance to go be a fireman or firewoman for the day. It's really cool. Do you remember doing it?
I do, it was awesome.
I've been
Yeah.
lifting weights so that I can haul that hose up the stairs, Mayor.
The cooler thing is when they give you the jaws of life. Ooh. And you get to saw a door.
I'm super excited about this.
And if we have somebody going, I'm gonna try and go again as well too, because I like to go and, support.
That's awesome.
And I'm the chair of the board this year, so I try and be as helpful as I can, so. Good to hear, that, you're planning on it, so. Brian, are you able to do it?
I am,
If you can, great, I'm not putting you on the spot here right now.
no, not at all.
Just
I would
inform.
really like to. I've
Okay.
got kids' things going on, but I would like to
So.
definitely.
So there's that, and then the last thing I want to bring up is the general plan update, okay, right now. Mike has worked hard, and he's got he put RFP out, we got 4 proposals. And Mike and Whitney and Lisa and Brant and myself will be scoring those proposals. And we'll be meeting next Tuesday to determine, make the analysis of who we would like to make that offer to. He's been working hard to try and get some monies into this budget cycle, since we have things budgeted, but I just wanted you to be aware of that, so that that's what's happening, that's a process, because I know it's big in people's minds, so, Any
fantastic.
thoughts on that, other than what I've just expressed?
No,
Great job, Mike.
That's awesome.
Grateful for it.
Okay, so, that's where we're headed with that. And then, that's probably it, unless you have any questions for me about anything. So, if not, then, our city manager is, I know he was with other city managers tonight, and so I don't know if Lisa has any sort of report from him, do you? So,
No, I think just the update on the general plan, that's what we were, high priority for that, so.
Mayor, one thing from me as well. I sent out an email to everybody, but just a reminder to please submit your conflict of interest disclosures, since those are now required to be posted to the website and sent to the Lieutenant Governor's office as well. It is an online form now. We've removed the requirement for a notary, so it should only take a couple minutes for you to get on and fill out that form. If you need me to send you the link again, I'm happy to do so, but please send those back to me as soon as possible.
Would you like to publicly shame anyone who hasn't?
I wouldn't like to, but I can if I need to.
I haven't done it
I can
all.
use-
and She doesn't need to shame me, I can shame.
excuse that I haven't been
I
getting
have
much sleep
only
the last 2 weeks.
received 2. I've actually received 2 from Shaylin, so.
I can like suggest.
So Shaylin gave you 2, so
Well,
that's why I asked her to do mine, thank you.
no,
Oh, okay, thank you.
Shaylin had already submitted hers and then submitted it again, which you didn't. But thank you for doing that.
That's fine.
Double submitted.
I couldn't remember if I did or not when I got the emails.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. So yeah, please get that done as soon as possible.
Okay,
that's all for
so, yeah, let's try and make a goal that we have that done. Well, let's not give it till next council, because we're 3 weeks out till next council. Let's
Right.
do it in the next week, right? Or do you want it before that?
I mean,
By the end
go
of the-
home and do it tonight,
Tonight,
honestly.
okay.
They're supposed to be submitted every January, so we're late on them already.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, any other thoughts, questions? If not, motion to adjourn, I guess. Second?
Second.
All in favor, aye? We're adjourned.